What if everything Prince Harry believed about his life, his family, his mother, his role in the monarchy, was built on a lie? Not a metaphorical lie. Not the usual whispers about paternity or press rumors recycled for ratings. No, a cold, clinical, data-backed, scientifically confirmed truth that has upended every royal protocol, shattered unspoken taboos, and thrown the House of Windsor into absolute chaos. Imagine being Prince Harry. Your entire existence lived in the brutal public eye. Every choice, every tear, every scandal dissected in headlines. You've weathered the storm of accusations, betrayals, heartbreaks, and loss. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. But you always had one anchor, one unshakable belief, that you were your mother's son, Diana's child, raised by her, loved by her, and born into her truth. Except, what if that belief itself was false? And what if the real story, one buried deep in sealed royal vaults and whispered among a handful of palace insiders, reveals something no one, not even Harry, was prepared to face? Because recent DNA results, shocking, quietly leaked, and independently verified, may prove something almost no one dared imagine. That Prince Harry is, biologically, the son of both King Charles and Queen Camilla. Yes, you read that correctly. Not Diana, Camilla. And while the world has long speculated that Harry might not be Charles's son, the irony is that it may be the opposite, that Harry is not only Charles's son, but Camilla's as well. How is that even possible? Why would the palace hide something so staggering? And if true, if even parts of this are true, what does it mean for the entire House of Windsor? We're going to break it all down. Every rumor, every leak, every breadcrumb of evidence. But before we go further, you need to understand something. This story has never been told like this before. Not in the tabloids, not in the memoirs, not in the Netflix deals, the tell-all interviews, or the biographer's gossip. Because what's emerging now is something new, something raw, something terrifying for the institution that has survived centuries of scandal. This isn't just about Harry. It's about who orchestrated it, who kept it buried, and why it's exploding now. So let's rewind. Let's go back to the moment the seed of doubt first sprouted, not in the press, not in public, but in Harry's own mind. It started, not with a scandal, but with a silence, a missing piece of his own memory. You see, unlike William, who could recite stories about his early childhood with Diana, the car rides, the songs, the tender bedtime moments, Harry's memories of his early days are foggy, especially the days right after his birth. Friends say he brushed it off for years. Thought it was just the trauma of losing Diana, that maybe his brain had repressed things. He never thought to question it. Until one day, he received something strange. A letter, unmarked, no return address, no postmark, but sealed with wax, an old-school, aristocratic touch only used in high society circles. Inside, a single sheet of paper. No words, just numbers. 2 sets of DNA markers, labeled only Subject A and Subject B. And beneath them a name, his own. At first, he thought it was a joke. Or worse, another cruel tabloid setup. But something about the document didn't feel fake. The formatting, the terminology, the lab codes and the margins. It was oddly specific. And it gnawed at him. He showed it to Meghan, expecting her to roll her eyes. Instead, she froze. She'd worked with attorneys and investigators before. She knew what a lab file looked like. They ran the codes through a secured database, one used by private security firms. And that's when the first alarm bell rang. The document was real. So what do you do when you're a prince, staring at potential proof that your entire origin story has been a curated illusion? You investigate. Quietly. Privately. Which is exactly what Harry did. He called in favors. Contacts. Quietly funded a private inquiry into his own past. He was looking for something simple. Something reassuring. A confirmation that the document was a hoax. But what he got instead was the first crack in a glass castle. The paternity markers didn't just confirm he was Charles's son. They confirmed something else. Something impossible. That his maternal DNA did not match Diana Spencer. Instead, it matched someone unexpected. Camilla Rosemary Shand. Now pause for a moment. Let that sink in. If true, that means the 2 people most responsible for destroying Diana's peace, Charles and Camilla, were not only romantically entwined, but biologically tied to the very son Diana thought she bore. A contradiction so absurd, so scandalous, that it begs the obvious question. How? And why? Why would Diana raise a child that wasn't hers? Was it a mix-up? A switch? A forced decision? Or was Diana, famed for her maternal warmth and devotion, the ultimate cover story for a royal operation more twisted than anyone had imagined? And if so, what did she know? Some of Diana's old interviews, especially the secret tapes, suddenly take on chilling double meanings. Like when she said, "There were 3 of us in this marriage." Or, "I felt more like a decoration than a wife." Was she hinting at something? Did she suspect? Did she even choose to raise a child who wasn't hers, as some kind of palace compromise? Because here's where it gets darker. There are now whispers from former palace staff, long retired, but still discreetly connected, that around the time of Harry's birth, security protocols changed abruptly. Access to Diana's maternity wing was restricted. Several logs went missing, and Camilla, who was supposedly banished from royal life at the time, was spotted by 2 independent sources in the vicinity of the hospital. Coincidence? Or the first breadcrumb? Now, it would be easy to dismiss all of this as conspiracy theory, until you hear what happened next. Harry didn't stop digging. He reached out to a woman, someone who had once worked closely with the royal family's medical team. She agreed to meet him, and what she told him didn't just confirm his fears. It upended his entire world. Because according to her, there was an incident, something unrecorded, something off the books, a situation that required the palace's discretion, and it involved Camilla, a delivery, and a cover-up. Harry didn't want to believe it, until she gave him one more piece. A photo, old, blurred, faded, but unmistakable. A hospital bed. Camilla, exhausted, holding a baby. Charles beside her, and no Diana in sight. So now, the question isn't whether something strange happened in 1984. The question is, how deep does it go? How many people knew? How much was orchestrated? And most importantly, why now? Why is all of this surfacing now? Is someone trying to warn Harry? Protect him? Or destroy him? Because if the truth really is that Prince Harry is the biological son of both Charles and Camilla, conceived, delivered, and then handed off to Diana in a moment of royal desperation, then this isn't just a family drama. It's a constitutional crisis, a psychological earthquake, and the most devastating betrayal imaginable, not just to Harry, but to Diana's legacy. And what Harry does next, how he reacts, who he confronts, what he reveals, could change the monarchy forever. But first, we need to go back to the lie that everyone believed, the lie that may have been planted on purpose. Because before Harry found the truth about Camilla, he had to face a rumor that was just believable enough to distract him, a name the press had weaponized for decades, the red herring that may have been a royal decoy all along. James Hewitt, the supposed real father. But what if that rumor wasn't an accident? What if it was designed to make Harry stop asking questions? And what if that distraction is the very reason he missed the truth? Until now. What if the biggest royal scandal of the last 40 years was planted on purpose? What if the infamous James Hewitt theory, the gossip-fueled, tabloid-drenched claim that he was Prince Harry's real father, was never organic, never accidental, never innocent? What if it was a cover, not to conceal a betrayal, but to hide something even more unthinkable? Let's rewind the clock. It's the late 1990s. Princess Diana is gone. Harry is a teenager. And suddenly, everywhere he turns, his face is being plastered side by side with another man's, James Hewitt. The press is merciless. Same red hair, same smile, same height. The gossip spreads like wildfire. And the damage? Permanent. But here's the twist nobody talks about. It wasn't just the tabloids who leaned into the narrative. Certain palace aides, behind closed doors, didn't rush to shut it down. They didn't crush it like they crushed other rumors. In fact, one might argue, they let it breathe. And Harry? He was still a boy. Imagine being 13, already grieving your mother, already suffocating under a microscope, and now the world is whispering that your father isn't your father, that your mother cheated, that you're the product of betrayal. It tore into him. And yet, what if the real betrayal was that the story had been encouraged? What if someone wanted Harry chasing the wrong ghost? Because the more time he spent obsessing over James Hewitt, the less time he'd spend asking real questions about his birth. The photos, the blood work, the timing, the details that might lead somewhere darker. Somewhere royal officials would never want him looking. Like, toward Camilla. Let's break this down. James Hewitt and Diana did have a relationship. That much is true. He even admitted it. In interviews. In his own book. On camera. But there's one thing he's always insisted on, without hesitation. That their affair began after Harry was born. Specifically, 2 years after. It's a timeline James Hewitt has stuck to, over and over again, even under immense pressure. Why would he lie in a way that exonerates himself? If he wanted fame, or money, or headlines, he could easily stoke the fire. He could leave it ambiguous. He could tease the public. But he doesn't. Instead, he's almost defensive. Protective, even. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If James Hewitt wasn't lying to protect himself, who was he protecting? And more importantly, who else was invested in keeping that rumor alive? Here's something most people forget. In the early 2000s, just as the Hewitt theory began regaining traction online, a series of strange media events occurred. A palace spokesperson publicly denied the rumor. Yes, but in the mildest, least aggressive terms. No lawsuits. No firm evidence released. No birth records unsealed. It was a weak denial, almost as if they wanted people to keep believing it. Just enough to keep Harry distracted. And it worked. Sources close to Harry say that he grew obsessed with the rumor in his 20s. One friend reportedly said Harry once asked his father directly, "Am I really yours?" Charles's response, a laugh, then a cold, clipped, "Yes, of course you are." But Harry didn't walk away reassured. He walked away, confused, because something about the tone felt rehearsed, like Charles had practiced it. And here's where the paranoia begins. When a lie is effective, it isn't because it's outrageous. It's because it's plausible. It aligns just enough with your fears, your insecurities, your doubts, that you start filling in the blanks yourself. That's what happened to Harry. For years, he was haunted by the idea that James Hewitt might be his real father. He stared at old photos, compared jawlines, watched interviews late at night. And the longer he obsessed over that, the less he noticed the inconsistencies surrounding his actual birth. The shifting timelines, the missing hospital logs, the rumors, quiet but persistent, that Camilla had disappeared for several days in 1984, that she'd taken ill, that she was seen near a private maternity wing. But Harry never connected the dots. He was too busy chasing a ghost. Now let's examine motive. If someone inside the palace, or inside the firm, wanted to keep a dangerous truth buried, the smartest move wouldn't be to silence all questions. It would be to redirect them. Plant a decoy. Give the public something to sink their teeth into, just the right amount of scandal. And what better scandal than a dashing cavalry officer, known to have been Diana's lover, who looked just enough like Harry to stir doubt. James Hewitt was perfect. He was controversial, but non-threatening. He'd already lost favor with the public. His reputation was a mess. So every time the media dragged him back into the spotlight, the real scandal stayed safely buried, hidden in the margins. The magician's trick: distract with the left hand, while the right hand does the real work. And it worked for decades. Even Harry believed it. Until that letter arrived. Until those lab results suggested a much darker truth. Because suddenly, the question wasn't, "Is Charles my father?" It became, "What if I was never Diana's son at all?" And that's when Harry began to think back to conversations he once dismissed. Strange moments. Diana once telling a friend, cryptically, "They've taken enough from me. I won't let them take my boys." At the time, it sounded like a protective mother fighting for custody. But what if it wasn't? What if she was alluding to something else? To a previous battle? To a negotiation that ended with her agreeing to raise a child that wasn't biologically hers? Was it forced? Voluntary? A compromise? We may never know. But here's what we do know. There are gaps. Gaps in medical records. Gaps in timelines. Gaps in people's memories. One hospital staffer from the time, now retired, once said in a private interview that the day Harry was born, security was unusually aggressive. That 2 maternity nurses were asked to leave. That one wing of the hospital was suddenly off limits. And the biggest anomaly? There are no official photographs of Diana holding Harry immediately after birth. All the iconic images came days later. Why the delay? Was it because of exhaustion? Or was it because, for a brief, crucial moment, she wasn't the one holding him? So let's bring this back to the lie. The James Hewitt story. It's more than a rumor. It's a masterstroke of distraction. Because what it did, brilliantly, effectively, tragically, was give Harry a villain he could see. Someone tangible. Someone blamable. Someone not in the palace. And in doing so, it kept him from looking inward. From questioning the very people he trusted. From seeing that the true deception may have come from inside the gates of Windsor itself. From people who called him family. Now, years later, with DNA reports in his hands and secrets spilling faster than they can be contained, Harry is finally seeing the full picture. And it's worse than he ever imagined. Because if this wasn't about James Hewitt, if it wasn't even about infidelity, then it was about something else. Something calculated, strategic, cold. A decision made behind closed doors, in a world of power where children are pawns, and optics matter more than blood. And if that's true, if the James Hewitt theory was a deliberate smokescreen, planted to keep him from ever discovering the truth, then the next logical question becomes, who planted it? Who orchestrated it? And who stood to benefit the most? The answer to that lies in a sealed envelope, delivered in silence, containing a photo that wasn't supposed to exist, of a woman who was supposed to be gone from royal life in 1984, holding a newborn baby, beside the future king, while Diana was nowhere in sight. What would you do if a stranger mailed you proof that your entire life had been staged? Would you call it a hoax? Burn it? Or stare at it for hours, hoping it's fake? Prince Harry didn't know what to think. Because the moment that envelope landed on his doorstep in Montecito, everything changed. No knock. No delivery van. Just an unmarked envelope. Hand-delivered. With old-fashioned wax sealing the back. The kind of thing you see in movies. Or in royal palaces. Not in California cul-de-sacs. Meghan found it first. It was tucked into their garden gate. No note. No postage. Just sitting there. Like it had always been. She picked it up, turned it over. Her stomach dropped. The wax seal was red. Pressed with a symbol. Not a royal crest. Not a crown. But a rose. A single blooming rose. She didn't open it. She left it on Harry's desk. He walked in, saw it, and everything in him froze. He recognized the symbol. It wasn't Diana's. It wasn't Charles's. It was Camilla's. Or at least, something she had used before. Decades ago, when she used to send letters to Charles while he was still married to Diana, she used a rose symbol in her private notes. Subtle, innocent-looking, but to those in the know, unmistakable. Harry didn't tear it open. He sat with it, staring. Then, slowly, he peeled away the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Folded. Crisp. No writing. Just a page of numbers. Genetic markers. Base pair sequences. Double helix data. It wasn't handwritten. It wasn't even personalized. But at the top were 3 typed labels. Subject 1, HM. Subject 2, CRS. Subject 3, HRH Prince Harry of Wales. Harry didn't even blink. HM, His Majesty. Charles. CRS, Camilla Rosemary Shand. He held the page, heart thudding. He knew enough about biology to recognize what he was looking at. And it didn't make sense. Because if those were the 2 source subjects, and he was the result, that meant, no, it couldn't be. There had to be a mistake. He stood up, pacing. Meghan came in. What is it? He handed her the sheet. She read it once. Then again. Her voice dropped. Where did this come from? I don't know, he said. It was just there. They needed confirmation. Harry wasn't going to spiral, not again. Not like with James Hewitt. Not without checking. So they called a friend. Not just any friend. A geneticist. Formerly with a private firm contracted by Royal Security. Someone they trusted. They sent him the sheet via encrypted email. 2 hours later, the phone rang. The voice on the other end was quiet. Tense. This document isn't fake, the scientist said. It's formatted identically to the testing templates used in the Royal Medical Archives. Harry was silent. Could it have been forged? Meghan asked. Not easily, the man replied. The marker alignments, they're precise. Whoever made this either had access to royal DNA samples, or they are the royal lab. What does it mean? Harry asked. A pause. Based on the matching sequences. Subject 1 and Subject 2 are a parental match for you. The mother marker doesn't match Princess Diana. The line went dead. Not from the call dropping. From Harry hanging up. He couldn't hear anymore. Now, try to put yourself in his shoes. For your entire life, you've believed one thing. That you were the second son of Charles and Diana. The spare. The wild card. The rebel. But still Diana's boy. The red hair. The smile. The cheekiness. All of it proof that her blood flowed through yours. And now, you're staring at a piece of paper suggesting that may have never been true. He didn't know what to think. Could Diana have known? Could Charles have done something this insane? And Camilla? The woman he blamed for so many of his mother's tears, could she have been hiding this the whole time? The weight of it nearly knocked the air out of his lungs. But it wasn't just the numbers that haunted him. Because tucked behind that sheet was something else. Another folded page. Not typed. Printed. It was a photo. Faded. Grainy. Old-school inkjet print. The kind you'd get from an office printer in the 80s or 90s. At first glance, it looked unremarkable. A hospital bed. A man and a woman. Holding a newborn. But as Harry's eyes adjusted, he realized who the people were. The man was Charles. Younger. Nervous. Still carrying the weight of new fatherhood. The woman? Camilla. Hair pulled back. Face flushed. Gown open at the collar. Cradling a baby in a pale blue blanket. The timestamp in the corner read, September 15th, 1984. The day of Harry's birth. And Diana? Not in the frame. Not anywhere. He flipped the photo over. One word was scribbled in pen. Lionheart. His hands shook. He put the photo down. Megan stood behind him, stunned. This can't be real, she whispered. But it looked real. The sheets. The hospital gown. The four-tube. The wallpaper. Harry had visited the maternity ward at the Lindo wing dozens of times growing up. He recognized that wallpaper. But the position of the bed? Wrong. The bed wasn't from the public-facing ward where Diana gave birth. It was from the private wing, restricted to select royals and VIPs. Which meant Camilla had been there. The same day? In the same hospital? Giving birth? At this point, the questions became unbearable. Why would Camilla be giving birth on the same day as Diana? Why would Charles be with her? Why would that photo exist? Was it a look-alike? Photoshopped? Some twisted prank? But the timestamp? The style of the print? The subtle wear on the photo edges? It felt old. Authentic. Harry, skeptical as he was, had seen enough fakes to recognize a real relic when he held one. And this felt real. Terrifyingly real. And then Megan noticed something else. The blanket the baby was wrapped in. She pulled up an old family photo on her phone. From Harry's birth reveal, outside the hospital. Same blanket. Same color. Same stitching. She zoomed in. The same frayed corner, where the thread stuck out near the hem. It wasn't a blanket. It was the blanket. Now everything was unraveling. Had Camilla given birth first? Had there been a switch? A mix-up? A substitution? Was Diana even aware? Or was she, like the rest of the world, told a version of the truth that served the crown? Because if that photo was what it looked like, it meant Diana may have walked into that hospital expecting to give birth, only to be handed a baby already born. Harry didn't want to believe it. He refused to believe it. But his gut, his instincts, told him something was wrong. Very, very wrong. And the envelope had done more than just shake him. It had started something. Because just days later, another message would arrive. This time, not on paper, not in a photo, but on his private phone. A text from a number he didn't recognize. Encrypted. Simple. Chilling. It said, "If you want the rest of the truth, come alone. Lisbon. Thursday. I have everything." Have you ever seen a photo so shocking, so impossible, that your mind tries to erase it? That's what Harry was feeling. Because no matter how many times he blinked, the image wouldn't change. It was still there. Camilla, holding a baby. The same baby blanket Harry had always thought was his first embrace with Diana. But Diana wasn't in the picture. She wasn't even mentioned. And that timestamp? It matched the exact day Harry was supposedly born. So here's the question no prince should ever have to ask. If Diana wasn't holding him, if she wasn't even in the room, then who did she really take home from the hospital? Worse still, was Harry ever in her arms at all? Or had the world watched a royal performance? One that started with a switch and ended in tragedy? Harry stared at the photo until his eyes blurred. He turned it sideways, upside down. Studied every crease and faded pixel. But the facts kept staring back. The hospital wallpaper, Lindo wing. The ID bracelet on Camilla's wrist, coded but visible. The bedding. The layout. It was unmistakable. This wasn't a fake. This was real. A moment frozen in time that had been carefully, surgically scrubbed from history. But somehow, someone had held on to it. And now they'd sent it to Harry. Why? What did they want? And why now? That's when the text arrived. Harry had just stepped out onto the balcony, trying to collect himself. His phone buzzed. Blocked number. Just one line. If you want the rest of the truth, come alone. Lisbon. Thursday. I have everything. No signature. No location. Just Lisbon. He read it 3 times. Was it a trap? A prank? Or the key to everything? Megan saw his face fall. What is it? He showed her. She didn't speak for a long moment. Then, it's a setup. Maybe, he said. But if it's not? He trailed off. If it wasn't a setup, if it was real, then this could be the only chance he'd ever get to crack the truth wide open. To find out who he really was. To stop guessing and know. The next day, he flew commercial. No security detail. No royal protection. Just a baseball cap, a pair of sunglasses, and an old duffel bag. He didn't tell anyone else. Not even Eugenie. Not even Tyler Perry. Not even his team at Archwell. Only Megan knew. And even she wasn't thrilled. But she understood. When you've lived your whole life under a script, you'll do anything, for an unedited version of the truth. Even if it hurts. Even if it destroys everything. Even if it confirms your worst fear. That your mother may have been used. That your father may have lied. That your entire childhood may have been staged. Lisbon was gray when he landed. Clouds low. Rain in the air. A fitting tone for the mood. He took a taxi to a quiet cafe tucked into a side street near Alfama. It was nearly empty. Just a few locals drinking espresso. At the back, in the darkest corner, sat a woman in a trench coat. She didn't look up. Just tapped the table. He approached. She slid a folder across to him without a word. Then looked up, and Harry froze. He knew her. Not well, but enough. She had once been a junior technician at a genetics lab in Berkshire. A lab the royal family had once contracted for medical research, back in the late 90s. Harry had met her once. Briefly. She'd taken blood samples during a routine medical review. But now, she looked nervous, paler, older, like someone who'd been running. She spoke softly. You don't remember me. I do, he said. She nodded. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. What is this? He asked, gesturing to the folder. Proof, she said. Proof of what they did. Inside the folder were 5 documents, and one high-resolution version of the photo Harry had already received. But this one had metadata. Date, time, camera model, location. It had not been doctored. It had not been edited. It was real. Taken at 3:02 p.m. on September 15, 1984, at St. Mary's Hospital, London, in the private maternity wing. The technician leaned in. Camilla gave birth that morning, she whispered. In total secrecy, under an alias. Staff were told she was a foreign dignitary's wife. Harry couldn't breathe. Charles was there the whole time, she added. What about Diana? He asked. She wasn't even in the building until later, the woman said. She arrived hours afterward. Cameras were told she'd been inside for longer. But that was a media illusion. Harry gripped the table. Are you telling me they handed me to Diana after I was born to Camilla? The woman didn't answer. She just said, they needed a child. A legitimate heir. But there were complications with Diana. They used a backup plan. Harry couldn't believe what he was hearing. What kind of backup plan? He asked. The woman hesitated, then slid over the final sheet of paper. A delivery record. Patient name, confidential. Time of birth, 2:38 p.m. Attending physician, redacted. Blood type, B+. Mitochondrial DNA match, subject CRS. There it was again. Camilla Rosemary Shand. Harry sat in stunned silence. His entire world had been rewired. It wasn't just a rumor anymore. It wasn't just a photo. It was evidence. Medical, legal, historical. If he went public with this, it would blow Buckingham Palace off its foundation. But part of him still wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding. Why me? He asked finally. Why would they do this to me? The woman looked up. Because they couldn't do it to William, she said. He was already the heir. Too public. Too watched. But you? You were the spare. Easier to shift. Easier to explain. It hit Harry like a slap. He had always thought being the spare meant he had less responsibility. Less scrutiny. Less expectation. But in truth, it had made him expendable. Replaceable. Or worse, moldable. The woman leaned closer. I don't know why you were chosen, she said. But I know this. Diana wasn't informed until it was too late. And when she found out, she paused. She was devastated. But she stayed quiet. Why? Harry asked, nearly whispering. Because they threatened to take you away. His blood went cold. The institution, she added. The firm. They made her choose. Raise the child, or walk away. But she loved you. Even if you weren't hers by blood. The tears came then. Quiet. Hot. Relentless. He didn't stop them. He couldn't. Because in that moment, Harry realized something unbearable. Diana had known. She had loved him anyway. Raised him anyway. Shielded him from the truth, even as it broke her. And now she was gone. And he was alone with the truth. But not for long. Because before he left Lisbon, the woman handed him one last item. A flash drive. Encrypted. Inside, she promised, were full medical files, audio clips, internal memos, and one final document. The one file that had never been meant to surface. A palace birth certificate. Signed not by Diana, but by Camilla. And the name on the baby? Henry Charles Albert David, Prince of the United Kingdom, and the son of a woman the world thought had no royal claim to motherhood. Not officially, not publicly, not legally, but biologically. Now the evidence was undeniable. And the only question that mattered now, what was Harry going to do with it? What if the truth had been sitting right in front of you for your entire life? In the laughter of your childhood, in the photos framed on forgotten walls, in the eyes of the one person who rocked you to sleep when the cameras weren't watching. The nanny, the woman who wasn't royal, wasn't powerful, but was always there, who saw everything and said nothing. Until now. Her name was Angela. Angela Withers. Not famous, not flashy, but for 3 formative years, she was everything to Harry. She changed his nappies, held his hand at garden parties, soothed him when nightmares came. Diana trusted her deeply, which is why, when Harry returned from Lisbon with a flash drive full of secrets and a heart cracked open, he didn't call a palace aide. He didn't call a lawyer. He called Angela. It had been years. She'd moved to the countryside after retiring. No press, no scandal, just roses and tea and the memories she never shared. Until her phone rang. And she heard a voice she hadn't heard in over 2 decades. Angela? It's Harry. Silence. Then tears. He hadn't even said his last name. She didn't need it. She knew. I need to ask you something, he said. Something hard. She didn't hesitate. When can I see you? She asked. They met in a quiet garden outside Oxford. Neutral ground. No eyes. No press. She arrived first. When Harry walked in, she stood up and smiled, same as she did when he was 4. He hugged her, longer than he expected. Longer than he realized he needed. Then they sat. No small talk. He handed her the photo. The one from the hospital. Camilla. Charles. The baby. Angela didn't speak for 10 seconds. Then, I thought this had been destroyed. Harry's blood turned to ice. You've seen it before? She nodded. Slowly. I saw a copy. Once. By accident. Back then. Why didn't you say anything? She looked down. They told us to forget it. Said it was a test print. A mislabel. But I knew better. Harry leaned forward. Angela, did Diana know? Her eyes welled. She suspected. She wasn't told. But she knew something was wrong. After you were born, she wasn't allowed to hold you for hours. What? Angela nodded. They said it was protocol. Said you needed extra observation. But she was upset. Agitated. Said she didn't feel connected. Did she ever say it out loud? He asked. Angela looked away. One night, she told me she felt like a guest in her own motherhood. Harry's throat tightened. A guest. In her own motherhood. But Angela wasn't finished. There was one moment, she said, that haunts me. She took a shaky breath. You were 2 months old. Sleeping in the nursery. I came in early. And I found Diana, just sitting there. Watching you. Did she look sad? No. Not exactly. She looked resolved. She turned to me and said, they told me to love him. But I already do. Harry said nothing. His hands trembled. Meghan had always told him. His mother's love was evident in every picture, every touch. But now, he realized it had been even more powerful than he knew. Because Diana hadn't just loved him. She had chosen him. In spite of everything. Angela continued. There was another odd thing. Harry looked up. What? Your crib. The day you came home from the hospital. She paused. There was something strange about the setup. The tags on the baby clothes, they were different than William's. New, not royal issue. Harry squinted. What does that mean? It means, I don't think they came from Diana's wardrobe. I think they were brought in separately. Last minute. She reached into her bag. I kept one, she said. Don't ask me why. She handed him a faded baby onesie. Still folded. Still clean. On the inside tag, property of R.W. maternity. Harry blinked. R.W. Royal ward, Angela whispered. But not the wing where Diana stayed. The other ward. The private one. His heart skipped. The same one from the photo. The one Camilla had used. Angela, he asked, voice cracking. Was I ever switched? She looked at him for a long time, then said the one thing he feared most. I think you were never meant to be in Diana's arms. Silence. The birds stopped singing. Even the breeze paused. Harry sat motionless. Then why? Because they needed a second son, she said. An heir and a spare. But there were complications. And someone, somewhere, made a choice. A cruel, quiet, permanent choice. Did Diana agree to it? Angela sighed. Maybe. Or maybe she was cornered. But I know one thing. What? She loved you more than her own life. Whether you came from her or not. That broke him. Right there, in the garden. The prince, the soldier, the father. He disappeared. And the child returned. The boy who once searched for his mother's perfume on her pillow. Who clung to her memory like oxygen. Who now realized. She had protected him not from enemies, but from the truth. They talked for hours. About baby blankets. About names. About the strange day when palace security had removed all the nursery staff for cleaning. Just 2 days after Harry's birth. Angela had always thought it was strange. Now she knew why. They weren't cleaning. They were scrubbing. Covering tracks. Replacing evidence. Resetting the stage. As the sun set, Angela stood. She hugged him again. Longer this time. Before she left, she whispered one last thing in his ear. There's a ledger. An old medical record book. Vault 17. Charles kept it hidden. It's the only place the real birth logs were ever written. Where is it now? Harry asked. I don't know, she said. But if it still exists, that's where you'll find the final piece. Then she left. Just like that. But her words stayed. Burned into his mind. Vault 17. A place he had heard whispered once before. A room few ever entered. A vault where secrets were buried deeper than any grave. And now, Harry knew exactly where he was going next. To the place where the palace's greatest lies were kept under lock and key. To the vault that could confirm or destroy everything. Every royal palace has its secrets, but only a few have vaults. And of those vaults, only one is known by whisper, not by name, but by number. Vault 17. A room without windows. Without an official key. And, according to multiple ex-staffers, without a digital trace. It's not listed in blueprints. It's not on the Windsor security grid. And it's not supposed to exist. But Harry knew it did. Because when he was 16, he saw it with his own eyes. And at the time, he didn't think twice. Just another locked door in a palace full of them. Until now. Now that door was the only thing standing between him and the truth. The final truth. He made the call at midnight. To the only person he could trust inside the gates. Princess Eugenie. His cousin. His confidant. The one royal who had never turned her back on him. They met at a safe house outside London. An old country estate with no press access and thick hedges that swallowed sound. She arrived without her usual guards. Just a trench coat and her phone turned off. When he told her what he'd found, about the photo, the documents, the hospital metadata, she didn't gasp. She didn't deny it. She just sat. Staring. Silent. And then she said something that chilled him. I always thought it was strange, the way Grandpa never spoke about your birth. Harry frowned. Philip? She nodded. He was a man of routine. He loved talking about protocol. But when it came to your birth, he'd clam up. Just say it was handled. Handled. Like a transaction. Like a deal. Harry's stomach turned. Can you get me in? He asked. To the palace? She replied. To Vault 17. Eugenie hesitated. Then, I can try. 3 days later, they did it. Eugenie arranged an excuse, an event Harry could attend as a private reconciliation visit. The press bought it. Speculations of healing. Of olive branches. But none of them knew the real plan. At exactly 2:15 p.m., Harry entered Windsor Castle through the South Passage. He wore a tailored suit, sunglasses, and a face like stone. Behind him, Eugenie. Inside, they took the long hallway toward the Royal Archives. It was quiet. Too quiet. The archivist had been called away on urgent business, thanks to a favor Eugenie called in with a family friend. One hallway remained unlit, behind a metal gate, and at the end of it, Vault 17, a steel door with no nameplate, no keypad, just a biometric scanner. Harry turned to Eugenie. "Do you know the code?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a preserved thumbprint on a strip of silicon. "Charles," she said, "taken from an old wine glass, digitally mapped." Harry didn't ask how. He just pressed it against the scanner. For a moment, nothing. Then a beep. Then a hiss. Then the door clicked open. Vault 17 wasn't glamorous. It was cold, concrete, smelled like dust and iron and something older than time. Inside, rows of shelves, filing cabinets, locked drawers, no screens, no lights, just one overhead bulb, flickering. Eugenie stood watch. Harry moved fast. He found the Royal Birth Registry, a thick leather-bound book, dusty, sealed with a tie. He opened it, flipped to 1984. There was William, July 21st, perfectly detailed. Then came September, September 15th. But instead of a clean entry, there was a black smear. Ink, rushed, blotted. The name, Henry Charles Albert David, was there, but faint. And beneath it, a note in tiny script. Refer to subsection 17C, maternal override. Harry's heart pounded. Subsection 17C? He scanned the vault, found a narrow drawer labeled 17C, pulled it open. Inside, nothing. Empty. Just dust. Gone. Vanished. Like it never existed. He turned to Eugenie. "It's missing." She rushed over. "No," she said. "That drawer's always full." They pulled other drawers. Checked birth logs. Medical files. All intact, except for 17C. It was the only missing file. The only one scrubbed clean. Whoever had come before them had known exactly what to remove. Suddenly, noise. The sound of shoes on stone. Not guards. Not tourists. Boots. Heavy. Fast. Security. Eugenie paled. "We have to go." Harry grabbed the registry. Not the whole thing, just the September page. He tore it out, folded it, stuffed it into his coat. They bolted out the vault, down the corridor, back toward the south wing. They didn't stop. Not when voices shouted behind them. Not when a security guard spotted Harry and began to call his name. Eugenie threw a distraction. "He's with me. Royal inspection. Keep moving." And somehow it worked. They reached the car. Doors slammed shut. Engine roared. They were gone. Vault 17 behind them. The file missing. But the truth still chasing them. Back at the safe house, Harry unfolded the registry page again. Stared at that one haunting phrase. Maternal override. What did it mean? That Camilla had overridden Diana? That a royal decree had changed maternity? That the original birth was assigned, then reassigned? He had no answers. Only the knowledge that someone had beaten him to the vault. Someone who knew he was coming. Someone who was still trying to control the narrative. But they made one mistake. They left the registry. And one faint signature below the blotted name was still visible, barely legible, written in gold ink, not black. And that signature belonged to Camilla. That night, Harry sat alone with the torn page. Megan sat across from him, watching. "I can't run from this anymore," he said. "No," she agreed. "I have to confront them." She nodded. "All of them." He hesitated. Then no, just one. She knew exactly who he meant. Not the king, not the courtiers, not the doctors, but her, the woman who may have given birth to him, then disappeared into the background, then re-entered his life years later as stepmother. But what if she'd always been there, watching, waiting, carrying a truth no one dared speak? Camilla. And so, the next morning, Harry wrote her a letter. No lawyers, no staff, just pen, paper, fury, and one impossible question. "Are you my mother?" You can't unask a question like that. Not when it's written in ink. Not when it's sent across palace walls. Not when the person reading it might be the reason your entire life is a lie. Harry folded the letter once, twice, then slid it into an envelope. No wax seal this time, just his signature on the back. He sent it by courier, not royal mail, not email, not a message through the family office. No fingerprints. No press trail. No leaks. He wanted Camilla to be the only one to read it. But what he didn't know was that someone else had already intercepted it. 2 days later, Harry sat in the garden with Megan. They were waiting. No reply had come. No phone call. No note. No royal knock at the gate. Just silence. Until a black car pulled up across the street. Unmarked. Windows tinted. It didn't park. It just idled. Watching. At first, Harry thought it was coincidence. Then another car showed up the next day. Same model. Same spot. Different plate. But same intent. Surveillance. He was being watched. Monitored. Not by paparazzi. Not by fans. By them. The palace. The firm. And the message was loud and clear. Back off. But Harry wasn't backing off. Not now. Not with the photo in his desk drawer. Not with the metadata, the flash drive, the torn registry page. He had more evidence than ever. More than most journalists. More than biographers. More than memoirs. And yet, the more he gathered, the more dangerous it felt to simply ask the truth. Because if Camilla was his biological mother, that didn't just upend royal lineage. It shattered the moral narrative. The public image of Diana the betrayed and Camilla the mistress would be inverted, rewritten. Worse, the monarchy would have knowingly lied. To the world. To its subjects. To him. And someone was willing to stop him from peeling back that final layer. The cars. The text messages. The hacked inbox Megan discovered that morning. They weren't subtle anymore. They were warnings. But the worst moment came at night. Around 2:13 a.m. Harry was up late, pacing the kitchen, rereading the flash drive documents. Megan had gone to bed, and then he heard it. A knock. Not at the front door. At the side gate. The old, wrought iron gate leading to their back garden. No lights. No camera coverage there. He moved cautiously. Didn't open it. Just peered through the curtain. A shadow stood there. Motionless. Not moving. Not speaking. Just standing. Watching. For how long? He couldn't tell. He flipped the security lights on. But the shadow didn't flinch. It simply turned and walked away. No rush. No panic. Just presence. The next morning, they installed more cameras. More locks. More layers of privacy. But the feeling didn't leave. That cold, crawling sense that something was closing in. That time was running out. That he was getting too close. The flash drive was now encrypted in a safe. The torn registry hidden in a bank vault. The photo copied to 5 digital backups, each stored in a different country. But even with all that caution, he knew something had shifted. This wasn't just about uncovering the truth anymore. It was about survival. Because if the monarchy had truly orchestrated a secret birth, a baby switch, a lifelong lie, then protecting that secret wasn't just a priority. It was doctrine. It was war. And Harry? He was the liability. Still no reply from Camilla. Nothing. Until a week later. A white envelope appeared on his doorstep. Different than the first. No wax seal, but hand-addressed. In sharp, elegant cursive. Just one word. Henry. He opened it. Inside. One sheet. No greeting. No apology. No denial. Just a single sentence. My Lionheart. Some truths are buried not to deceive, but to protect. And beneath it, a pressed rose. Flattened. Dried. Familiar. Too familiar. The same flower that had sealed the first envelope. The one that had started all of this. Camilla had written back. Sort of. Not a confession. Not a rejection. But something else. Something far more dangerous. A code. Harry stared at the note. That word again. Lionheart. The nickname from the photo. The same one Diana used in her letters. He remembered it from his childhood. She'd once called him that when he scraped his knee and refused to cry. My Lionheart, she said. Brave and bold. But Camilla using it now? It meant one of two things. Either she was mocking him, or she knew everything, knew exactly who he was, and had been watching him suffer in silence for years. The pressed rose was the final blow. A message in itself. A nod to their past. Their bond. Their secret. But not a word of explanation. No context. No clarity. Just implication. A poison gift. The kind that says, I see you, but I'll never say it aloud. Megan read it. Her hands trembled. She's not going to say anything, she said. She doesn't have to, Harry replied. She already did. But what now? Harry stood, walked to his desk, opened the drawer, pulled out the next envelope. A letter he'd written weeks earlier. Addressed to Charles. He had been waiting to send it. waiting for confirmation, for proof, for the last puzzle piece. Now he had it. It wasn't ironclad. It wasn't court admissible, but it was enough. Enough to corner the truth. So he signed it, sealed it, and added one line to the top. We both know she won't say it. So now, it's your turn. Then he handed it to the courier and watched the car disappear down the road, not knowing that, miles away, behind another locked gate, another shadow was reading his every move and had just made a call, one that would change everything. Because Harry wasn't the only one writing letters. Someone else had just sent a file to a newspaper, an anonymous tip, and the leak would drop in 48 hours. With photos, documents, timelines, the truth was about to explode, and no one at Buckingham Palace was ready. Not for this. You don't travel across Europe without a reason. Not when you're a prince. Not when the press can smell your footsteps before you land. But Harry did. And this time, he didn't care who noticed. Because whoever sent the photo, whoever leaked the DNA data, wanted a meeting. Lisbon, Thursday. No names. No location. Just a message that read, I have everything. And when you're chasing a truth that's shattered your identity, your family, and your sense of reality, everything is a word you can't ignore. He landed just before noon. No security. No aides. No friends. Just a burner phone and a single backpack. Lisbon was cloudy that day. Windy. Moody. Almost cinematic. It felt right. His contact had texted a few hours earlier. Meet at Rua do Poco dos Negros. Café Octavio. Corner table. 1 p.m. Harry arrived early. Wore a scarf, glasses, and a baseball cap low over his brow. He'd used disguises before. In Vegas. In Afghanistan. In LA. But this wasn't about hiding from fans. This was about protection. Because if this meeting was real, then the person he was about to speak with had been carrying a nuclear secret for nearly 4 decades and wanted to hand it over. The cafe was quiet, cozy, tiled walls, steam rising from tiny porcelain espresso cups. Locals read newspapers. Waiters moved slowly. Tom didn't rush here. Exactly what the contact must have wanted. No noise. No tourists. No distractions. Harry sat in the corner, ordered nothing, waited. At exactly 1:03 p.m., she walked in. Blonde, late 50s, eyes darting, nervous hands. She spotted him immediately, sat down without a word. No hello, no smile, just a heavy exhale. He didn't recognize her, but she clearly knew him. I never thought I'd see you in person, she said, voice barely above a whisper. Do I know you? Harry asked. She shook her head. But I know you, and I knew your mother. He flinched. Diana? She paused. No, the other one. His blood went cold. Her name was Sophia Rivas. She'd been a lab technician in the Royal Medical Unit in 1984. A junior assistant back then. She wasn't supposed to see anything. She wasn't even supposed to be in the room. But accidents happen. Mistakes happen. And once they do, especially in royal circles, people like Sophia are either paid off or erased. She chose exile. Left Britain in 1990. Changed her name. Moved to Portugal. Started over. But she never forgot what she saw. A delivery. In secret. Not Diana's. Camilla's. I didn't know who she was at first, Sophia explained, sipping water. She came in under a false name. The hospital wing was locked down. I was only allowed to assist briefly, 10 minutes at most. What did you see? Harry asked. She leaned forward. 2 things I'll never forget. First, she was terrified. But proud. Like she knew what she was doing was dangerous, but necessary. And second, your father was there. The whole time. Harry stayed silent. Charles, he asked. She nodded. He didn't speak much. Just held her hand. Watched the clock. He signed a document right after the birth. What document? I don't know. I wasn't allowed near it. But I saw him hand it to a man in a gray suit. Harry's brow furrowed. What happened next? She hesitated. An hour later, the baby was gone. Gone where? They didn't say. Just removed. Taken by a private escort. No medical follow-up. No name. No records. Then Diana was brought in. To the other wing. Wait. Are you saying the child Camilla gave birth to was taken, she said, and reassigned? Reassigned, Harry repeated, like the word was poison. Yes. To Diana. Harry sat back in his chair. The pieces were fitting together too well now. Too cleanly. Too horrifically. A baby born to Camilla, quietly moved. then presented to the world as Diana's son, as his origin story, a story that was broadcast worldwide, with cheers, with flashbulbs, with lies. But why? He asked. Why would they do that? Sophia shook her head. I didn't know at the time. But after Diana died, I started connecting dots. What dots? I think Diana was struggling. I think the palace needed a second son and didn't trust nature to deliver it. So they manufactured the moment. You're saying I was part of a plan. Sophia didn't answer directly. She just said, you were engineered. That word stuck. Engineered. Like a political strategy. A PR campaign. A royal asset. Not a baby. Not a boy. Not a person. A solution. A backup. An air preserver. I ran, Sophia continued. Left London. But someone found me last year. Told me to stay quiet. Offered money. Who? Harry asked. She shook her head. I don't know. Anonymous bank transfers. A burner phone that rang twice, then vanished. What did they want? Silence. Why come forward now? She looked at him, dead in the eye. Because you deserve the truth. And because I'm dying. Harry blinked. I have cancer, she said. 6 months, maybe less. I'm tired of carrying this alone. She reached into her coat, pulled out a small envelope. Inside, a USB drive. This is everything I could save, she said. Test data. Logs. Blood work. A voice memo. From who? Camilla. His breath stopped. A message, she said. One she recorded after the birth. For your father. I made a copy before the file was purged. He took it with trembling hands. I never listened to it, she said. I couldn't. Why? She met his gaze. Because I already knew what it would say. They parted with no ceremony. No hugs. No promises. Just a look. And then she was gone. Back into the streets of Lisbon. Into history. And Harry? He flew home with the flash drive clutched in his hand like a detonator. He didn't even wait. Landed. Drove straight home. Plugged it in. There were 3 files. 1. Blood test comparisons. 2. A logbook showing the double birth, Camilla's and Diana's. 3. A memo. An audio clip. He hit play and heard Camilla's voice. Tired. Whispering. Almost broken. I don't know if this will ever reach you, she said. But it's done. He's perfect. He has your eyes. We'll tell her. We'll tell her it was hers. We have to. There's no other way. Harry froze. We'll raise him with love, she said. But the truth must stay buried. A pause. Then, Lionheart. That's what I'll call him. Because he'll need the courage to face a world that doesn't know who he really is. End of memo. Silence. No dates. No signatures. But the voice? Undeniably hers. And the name? His. Harry's nickname. The one only Diana used. Or so he thought. But now he knew. Camilla had said it first. Before Diana ever held him. Before the world saw his face. Before the lie took shape. What would you do if a stranger mailed you proof that your entire life had been staged? Would you call it a hoax? Burn it? Or stare at it for hours, hoping it's fake? Prince Harry didn't know what to think. Because the moment that envelope landed on his doorstep in Montecito, everything changed. No knock. No delivery van. Just an unmarked envelope. Hand-delivered. With old-fashioned wax sealing the back. The kind of thing you see in movies. Or in royal palaces. Not in California cul-de-sacs. Meghan found it first. It was tucked into their garden gate. No note. No postage. Just sitting there. Like it had always been. She picked it up, turned it over. Her stomach dropped. The wax seal was red. Pressed with a symbol. Not a royal crest. Not a crown. But a rose. A single blooming rose. She didn't open it. She left it on Harry's desk. He walked in, saw it, and everything in him froze. He recognized the symbol. It wasn't Diana's. It wasn't Charles's. It was Camilla's. Or at least, something she had used before. Decades ago, when she used to send letters to Charles while he was still married to Diana, she used a rose symbol in her private notes. Subtle, innocent looking, but to those in the know, unmistakable. Harry didn't tear it open. He sat with it, staring. Then, slowly, he peeled away the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Folded. Crisp. No writing. Just a page of numbers. Genetic markers. Base pair sequences. Double helix data. It wasn't handwritten. It wasn't even personalized. But at the top were 3 typed labels. Subject 1, HM. Subject 2, CRS. Subject 3, HRH Prince Harry of Wales. Harry didn't even blink. HM, His Majesty. Charles. CRS. Camilla Rosemary Shand. He held the page, heart thudding. He knew enough about biology to recognize what he was looking at, and it didn't make sense. Because if those were the two source subjects, and he was the result, that meant, no, it couldn't be. There had to be a mistake. He stood up, pacing. Megan came in. What is it? He handed her the sheet. She read it once. Then again. Her voice dropped. Where did this come from? I don't know, he said. It was just there. They needed confirmation. Harry wasn't going to spiral, not again. Not like with James Hewitt. Not without checking. So they called a friend. Not just any friend. A geneticist. Formerly with a private firm contracted by Royal Security. Someone they trusted. They sent him the sheet via encrypted email. 2 hours later, the phone rang. The voice on the other end was quiet. Tense. This document isn't fake, the scientist said. It's formatted identically to the testing templates used in the Royal Medical Archives. Harry was silent. Could it have been forged? Megan asked. Not easily, the man replied. The marker alignments, they're precise. Whoever made this either had access to royal DNA samples, or they are the royal lab. What does it mean?